So the worst thing next to losing a finger in the workshop has got to be sawdust. It's like what nails on a chalkboard are for ears is what sawdust is for my skin. Not only that, but my old setup was constantly tipping over and becoming a serious trip hazard. To fix these issues, I designed a cart filled with some pretty unique features. We have an automatic vacuum switch, a French cleat system, and I think a pretty unique feature for easy dust disposal around the front. It all started with an idea and a crappy sketch. From there, I jumped into SketchUp to build out the dimensions. Once I had a game plan, I was ready to start building.
What's kind of cool about this project is that it works really well for plywood that is cut in half long ways or hot dog style. So if you're like me and you don't own a truck, it's so much easier to bring that plywood home in an SUV or maybe even a car. Using a circular saw and a guide as well as my miter saw, I cut the full sheet down into all of the final dimensions. Next, I laid everything flat so I could line up where I want these pocket holes to go. I always like making little marks on the back ends of these pieces to make sure that I don't accidentally pocket hole the wrong side. A little bit of glue and we are cooking. I do recommend using at least a face clamp. You'll see me use a combination of clamps here because pocket holes are notorious for slipping and it's not really something fun to fix. I plug these pocket holes because I'm fancy like that, then I sanded them with a 120 grit sandpaper. Just be really careful when you're sanding because it doesn't take much to go through that plywood veneer. I use that 5-inch sanding disc as a template to give the corner a nice little round over. There are a lot of really great ways to cut a circle out of wood, but I just used what I had on hand, which was a nail and a metal ruler, and it worked out great. As an added bonus, you get pretty good at using a jigsaw. So I apologize, you can pretty much ignore this whole section. I'm cutting out a handle, but this is no longer in the final plans. I have since changed the design, but I wanted to call this out because you will see this handle show up in the rest of the video. Or maybe I did it for more jigsaw. This one took a couple tries. The first time I did it, the hole was way too small. I tried it again, still too small. And then I cut way too much out. But luckily I was able to take that section, glue it back in, and it worked out after that. What we'll do next is rip our bucket apart like a savage, dump its innards out, rip its arms off, and cut its head off. It's a good idea to make sure your bucket hasn't warped at all. That was the issue I ran into while I was doing my measuring for that last bit of footage. And I included this shot because I thought it looked cool.
Dust everywhere.
There's a lot of circles in this video.
Try again.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more
Jigsaw. Using 120 grit sandpaper, I smoothed all the faces and rounded over all of the edges.
Oh no. Oh no.
If your bucket's not working out, just use the Heimlich maneuver until it cooperates.
Oh my gosh. May not have to even glue this thing. Almost there. This thing is snug. Trust me, this thing is not going anywhere. I'll probably put some sort of glue on the underside.
Actually, it went somewhere. I later broke it, so I had to staple it. Make sure you sand everything as flat as humanly possible or else it could break that vacuum seal. The bottom of this bucket section really didn't have a place to glue because it's mostly hollow, so I made some of these clips to hold this thing in place. After a careful alignment, I was able to attach the clips using screws and hold everything nice and snug. To prevent any air from leaking, I used a foil tape on the inside. It's super strong and it's what I had on hand, but probably just about any tape will do. We'll call these the bucket arm supports. They just allow that lower bucket section to slide in and out freely. This portion consists of 2 pieces of wood sandwiched together with the bottom portion being a little bit wider than the other. I did run into one problem. The bucket will not slide in and out easily, so I ended up taking those bucket arm supports over to my belt sander, giving them a little bit of bevel, and that made it super smooth. Using 2 little bits of scrap, I glued them to the underside of the bucket lip. This will allow the bottom bucket to have a place to stop and make everything align nice and neat. I'm going to harness the power of magnets, so I marked a couple locations where I wanted some holes to go. I drilled those holes at about the depth of a magnet, just kind of winging it, got it pretty close. Then I played with them for a while because magnets are one of the coolest things to ever exist. Finally, it was time to assemble one of the greatest dust collectors the internet had ever seen.
So what I'll probably do is make this a test run just to make sure that everything fits so I can eyeball the height of that bucket. Hopefully my measurements were right. Probably haven't checked as much as I should have at this point. So we'll see. We'll see if it works out. Oh boy.
There it goes. Oh, look at that. That is a good fit. Okay. Oh, gosh. Dang it. Oh. I hope I didn't break that. I think we know what we're doing here. No. Yeah, right. Actually looks... That is exactly what the picture looks like. Oh. Oh my gosh. I gotta think about what I'm doing. One clamp done. More clamps, baby. Oh. Give me a break. I already broke it. Okay, that could have gone worse. Yeah, this thing's like real solid. Wow. Not bad, not bad at all. It's time to play with some magnets. Okay, so I'm gonna keep these in pairs so I know I get their polarities right. Is that what it's called? Does that magnet speak? And that way, see, I'm already second guessing myself. I did leave the middle out at first just so I could test it, but I went back and put that one in and it was about the perfect amount of strength. I used a few clamps to hold everything up while I attached everything with 1.5 inch wood screws. This would probably be a lot easier to do on its back, but somewhere along the lines I didn't cut something square, so I had to take a couple additional steps to square everything up. Next, it was onto the hinges. I used a piece of scrap to assist in drilling in the first half of the hinge. Then I was able to drop it in place and attach it to the other side. As a side note, I did center punch and pre-drill all of the holes for all of the screws. I highly recommend doing that. It makes alignment so much easier. Now the big question is, will this affect the suction? Let's find out. I was not only curious to see how my crazy contraption would affect suction, but I also wanted to see how a dust collection bag may affect it. To my surprise, it resulted in about a 25 to 30% increase in suction without the bag. So I'm really eager to see how well the suction is going to perform in this, but unfortunately this hose is not long enough to connect to the Shop Vac. So I went ahead and ordered a couple new pieces that should make this work out. Once I get those, we can do that test. But in the meantime, I have a bunch of stuff to add to the back of this, so we'll go ahead and get started on that. And my friend, he said this looks like a toilet. Unfortunately, I don't think he's wrong. My current sandpaper solution is really annoying, so I'm building something a little more organized. I just made a really simple box and made a series of 1/4 inch dados using my table saw. I was able to throw this thing together at lightning speed using only glue and brad nails. These grooves will allow me to slide in and out 1/4 inch shelves that should be pretty customizable. While still using leftover material, I cross-cut a section to be used as a shelf. I glued and nailed a French cleat to the back, but I forgot to give it its style points, so I went back and rounded over the corners. While I was installing the bottom French cleat, having all of these clamps gave me the illusion of stability, so once it didn't work, it was back to the drawing board. After yet another failed attempt, I made 100% sure this thing was going to work. You don't want your tools thrown all willy-nilly around the garage, so I found this really awesome Ryobi tool holder by user Barty3D on Thingiverse. I'll put a link to this 3D file down in the description. I'm building a cradle for an extension cord that needs to fulfill two purposes. It needs to secure the extension cord enough so it doesn't fall out, but also allow for removal so I can use it to power other tools. This 3D printed clip I made, combined with the raised front lip, allows it to fulfill both of these functions. I made another box with a sliding door that will hold towels and rags, which I'll use for staining and general cleanup. All that's left to do is put on our 2 remaining French cleats, then I'll attach the extension cord as well as the sanding box. Yeah. Oh, thank goodness.
That is officially a cart.
Oh, oh, that's not good. Oh, okay. It seems like some sort of cruel joke, but it still wants to tip. Not something I considered at all. Whenever I push it forward and the wheels are back in this orientation, it's not too bad. It's a little bit wobbly, but it could work. But whenever I pull it toward me and the wheels rotate 180, I mean, it's like, it's gonna fall right over. So I'm just gonna try moving the wheels. That should do it. If it doesn't, maybe I'll add some counterweight to the bottom. Okay, take two. Hi. Yeah.
Make sure you have all your limbs.
So I built this foot with some supports. It's actually super stable and I really like the look of it whenever it's standing up. Let's get it stood back up. I'll throw the accessories on the back, then we can do that final suction test, and then hopefully that's it. So we've made it. This is the moment where it either all comes together or it all totally falls apart. I have built, filmed, and edited up to this point. So if it doesn't work, it's all for nothing. I'm a little bit nervous, but I feel pretty confident. I mean, I put a lot of work into this. I was careful for the most part, other than the various things that I broke. But I feel like it's gonna work. It has to work. It has to work. 2,700 feet per minute last time I tested. Don't hold me to that. I'll put it up on the screen, probably. I didn't put the bucket in. I'm probably gonna need this part. All right, here we go. One more try. Oh, and real quick, I have a few other things. I also screwed on a magnetic bar. I designed some 3D printed clips to hold the vacuum extensions and the other various accessories that I always lose. And because disposable gloves are a precious commodity right now, I built them a throne to rest upon. I love that I have something so functional and I think looks really good too. So here, I'll show you how the whole system works. Up top is the idea that started the entire project. The lid serves two main purposes. This flip top allows you to quickly check and fill the bucket and makes it super easy to clean out. I always love that the hose is always handy at arm level and actually adds additional usable length. The only drawback to this design is having to remove the elbow to empty the bucket, but I think it's a worthy compromise. Around back, of course, we have the French cleat system. What's so great about the system is its flexibility. I plan on building wall-mounted French cleats for the garage, which will allow me to swap accessories as needed depending on what I'm actively working on. This basically turns the whole cart into a dust collection / sanding / staining and finish mobile. The automatic vacuum switch is a game changer. Unfortunately, it's not so useful for all my cordless tools, but for tools like my belt sander, it's so convenient. The switch detects electrical current from the tool and automatically starts the vacuum. Once the tool is powered off, the vacuum also turns off after a few seconds. And finally, the extension attachment. It not only extends the usable distance of the cart, but also allows me to keep the cord nice and neat when not in use. Having additional outlets and even USB ports always right next to me is great for powering tools and charging my phone and filming equipment. They might not be available at the time of posting this, but I will leave a link to the plans in the description, so check back for those if you're interested. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, all that YouTube mumbo jumbo. I hate to ask, but it really helps the algorithm or something like that. Maybe share with someone who needs to clean up their garage. I've been there, believe me. I also really love reading comments and talking to you guys, so please let me know your thoughts. If you want to watch me renovate this entire garage, I'll leave a link to that video here or in the description. Anyway, thanks for watching.